Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Heba El-Haddad and I am the mental health practitioner servicing the students, faculty, and staff at Zaytuna College. Making a sacrifice becomes necessary when one is faced with two values that are conflicting. The one possessing less value is usually given up for a greater benefit, person, or higher cause. At times, what we value is catered towards the self for the sake of our survival in meeting our core needs. And at other times, what we value may not benefit us directly nor serve our best interests, and may end up bringing more harm than good. When we're in position to choose between what benefits our well-being and what matters most to us, humans generally opt for that which matters most to them, often at the expense of their health, vitality, or time. An example of this may be one that many families globally can relate to. When parents work themselves to a point of complete exhaustion and mental collapse for the sake of ensuring that their children are afforded a quality education. We are all guilty of overvaluing or undervaluing ourselves at some point in time. And there may be a misalignment between what should matter most and what we actually value. You've likely heard the statement, live your values, which may be advice given to a student who values seeking knowledge but isn't quite willing to expend the necessary energy to progress in attainment of their goal. Or a company with a set of values such as integrity, respect, and communication, yet the stated values that the company spent hours debating, writing, and devising are hollow and rarely reinforced. Sociologists identify the space between one's stated values and principles and whether their behavior corresponds to them or not as a value gap. It's when what we say correlates to what we do. The smaller our value gap, the more authentic and credible we become as people. A larger value gap may indicate an internal tug of war that's taking place between our desires originating from the nafs, or a lowly self, and the ruh, our soul, calling to moral excellence through discipline and restraint. As Muslims, there's another greater value involving self-sacrifice, and that entails sacrifice for the sake of our Creator. The concept of self-sacrifice for the sake of one's afterlife in obedience to God has long been viewed as a traditional virtue. This particular virtue will likely bring to mind the story of Prophet Abraham, or Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam's willingness to sacrifice his biological son after seeing recurring dreams commanding him to do so. The story of Ibrahim alayhi salam is a profound example of the greatest type of sacrifice. The prophet of God, who had yearned for years to have a child and well into adulthood, had no followers nor children to inherit his message. Upon being gifted Ismail alayhi salam by Al-Wahhab through his marriage to Hajar, he was then commanded to sacrifice him. We can all empathize with the amount of pain Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam must have felt in that moment. And through the remarkable response of Ismail alayhi salam upon his father sharing the dream with him, confirming that he should follow through with God's command, Ibrahim alayhi salam demonstrated in that moment to his son an unwavering trust in God. As a prerequisite to carrying out Allah's commands, Ibrahim alayhi salam had to first make an emotional sacrifice, a process of detaching from one of the closest and most intense of human attachments, the bond between parent and child. This powerful story elucidates Prophet Ibrahim's readiness to slaughter Ismail alayhi salam, after which the command was rescinded prior to him being executed, with Ismail alayhi salam being replaced with a ram. Was Ibrahim alayhi salam willing to give up that which he yearned for the most for God? He loved Ismail intensely, but his love and commitment to God was stronger, and his decision to follow through with God's command reflected his true values as a prophet devoted to God. Our hearts will repeatedly be tested in this worldly abode, and we very frequently make an abundance of claims. Do our decisions reflect where God should be placed in our lives? Do we live in accordance with the true values that are rooted in the truth? Time and again, the lesson is there for those who have the ability to introspect. People's values and principles are not what they claim that they are, but what their actions show them to be. There have always been dark forces in the world that serve as toxins that contaminate our spirituality, distort our perception of reality, and disrupt our ability to achieve istiqamah or steadfastness on the crooked path of life. However, these dark forces are gaining momentum and adversely impacting seemingly every household. Our understanding of the need to prioritize sacrificing our desires in seeking God's pleasure, and our ability to do so is weakening, with this idea in its entirety becoming increasingly unpopular. Some of the contributing factors are attributed to major shifts in our understanding of reason, truth, and morality today. The modern era, in brief, was marked by philosophers such as René Descartes and Francis Bacon that were responsible for an insidious move, which began taking place by driving us away from religious perspectives that grounded and informed our knowledge. In pre-modern times, when we wanted to explain a phenomenon or concept, it was explained through a faith-based lens, with God being the ultimate authority and determiner of truth. Through the effort of Descartes and Bacon, religious perspectives were pushed aside in an attempt to attain universal objectivity by shedding our backgrounds, our inner dispositions, our biases, religious views, and education, so as not to view things through any filters. It was essentially an effort to solely view the world based on facts. This may sound benign and somewhat appealing, but what was actually taking place was the rejection of all knowledge rooted in faith. Postmodernity came about to further drive this shift by eliminating all modern ideals and beliefs, such as universal truth, objectivity, reason, traditional philosophies, and turning to God as our moral compass. Truth has become what works for the people as determined by the people, versus what is best for the people as determined by God. In other words, definitions of reality and ourselves are more fluid, and we have rejected what it means to be a human created in a world by God, and give freedom to defining things any way we please in a realm dictated by people's emotions. What becomes of societies that have deemed God to be irrelevant in governing our lives and humans dictating what truth is? Morality becomes relative, with whims and desires being dictated by the nafs. The outcome, undeniably, is heightened states of fragility, insecurity, proliferation of mental illness, suicidality, an absence of higher standards, a move from collectivism to a greater individualism, and a decrease in resilience, perpetual states of anxiety due to an ever-shifting, tumultuous world, and the substitution of long-established facts with mere opinions. The values of the current monoculture have now transformed the concept of self-sacrifice into a personal defect, due to the definitions being determined by subjective opinions surrounding what feels good. The concept of sacrifice seems to be non-existent in our current era, dominated by self-indulgence, having it all individualism, and a push towards an obsession with the self, with its endless fixations and pursuits, under the guise of quote-unquote self-care. Caring for ourselves in a holistic way is crucial, yet self-care without soul care, adequate health care, and communal bonds cripples us and leaves us to our own devices to navigate a world we did not create. In an attempt to alleviate pain, discomfort, and generational trauma, we have created a self-obsessed nation with a staggering 275 million people worldwide with a diagnosed anxiety disorder, and around 268 million diagnosed with depression in 2016 alone. Many today deny that self-sacrifice is sacrifice at all, and claim that it belongs in the category of self-denial. Fundamental concepts of sacrifice and love have near disappeared from contemporary family theories, and vocabulary relating to more traditional words such as virtue, honor, sacrifice, and righteousness are shrinking due to having negative connotations, while there is an expansion of vocabulary relating to victimhood, safety, and oppression, according to sociologists Campbell and Manning. When we're controlled by the nafs, we may observe our capacity to worship and endure difficulties steadily decline. Our ability to courageously face the trials assigned to each of us gradually begins to diminish as complacency and cynicism creep in and make a permanent home within our mentality and outlook on life. It's vital that we allow ourselves to feel the wide range of human emotions as we journey through life and pause periodically to process them with the right supports, for they are messengers. However, we need to remain mindful of not allowing these feelings to overtake us and distort our guiding principles. Going against the forceful tsunami of today's monoculture may seem very daunting and overwhelming, to say the least. Yet there's always hope for us when we return to anchoring ourselves in Islam's timeless principles that gift us with an inner eye of discernment in a rapidly perplexing and changing world. Confronting doubts is inevitable for all of us at varying stages and transitions in life, and we are bound to falter. Yet we can overcome them when we understand that our values are determined by an unchanging Islamic vision of reality embedded in the Quranic conceptual system. Our meaning-making system will always remain intact in a decaying world, so long as we strive to live in accordance with God's guidelines and heed His warnings. And as instructed in the Quran by God, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and hold firmly to the rope of Allah altogether and do not become divided. Surah Ali Imran, Ayah 103. And as with all matters, we seal our attempts to draw closer to God through our micro and macro sacrifices by supplicating daily, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah, wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. O Allah, show us truth as truth and inspire us to follow it. And show us falsehood as falsehood and inspire us to abstain from it. I thank you all for joining us today. I pray this was beneficial. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.